Today we're going to be making pumpkin muffins with ginger vanilla ice cream. And the recipe comes from one of my very favorite cookbooks, the gluten-free vegan baking for every occasion. It's by Sarah McLaughlin. And this is a recipe I have not tried, so I'm anxious to try it. I want to get everything pumpkin into this playlist because it's getting close to Thanksgiving and getting all really close to Halloween and Thanksgiving. So let's start today by first turning on the oven, 350. I've already turned it on and it's heating up for us. We're gonna have to get a half a cup coconut sugar. That's one of the things I really like about these recipes is it already uses non-refined sugar. Coconut sugar is a non-refined sugar, so half a cup. And then we're going to have a teaspoon and a half of ginger, fresh ginger. So let's start by peeling it. And it's really easier to peel it with a spoon. I don't know why, it just is. I've learned that from watching the cooking channel on television. So I tried it and it works. Alright, so I'm going to cut off the end in here. And then we're going to start grating until we get a cup and a half. Not a cup and a half, a teaspoon and a half. Alright. So that should be about an inch and a half of this raw ginger, so we'll see how that measures up. You have to be careful with flavors like ginger because they can become very overpowering. So, let me see how we do. So I'm anxious to try this recipe to see if I like it. Or if I'm going to adapt it next time and tone down or tone up the ginger. There's one. And a little bit more to fill that up. That'll work. Alright, so it says to take your fingers and combine this together with smushing it together until it becomes very fragrant. And so it's already very fragrant because ginger has a strong scent. But I'm just going to smush it together like the recipe says to do. It says about 10 to 20 seconds. So I think that's about it. It feels combined. It's a little bit more like grains of sand than it was before. A little bit thicker than when the sugar just came out by itself. It's a little bit more like, I don't know, like a crumble. Alright, let me wash my hands. And we'll keep going. Okay, so now we're going to start with the coconut milk. And it says to use full fat, unsweetened coconut milk. And I always get that from a can. And I used this one the other night and I have some left, so I put it in the refrigerator. We can use it today. And I need a half a cup. And I like to stir it around a bit because it's been in the refrigerator, so all the solids have gone to the top in the coconut, so it needs to be stirred. Sometimes if I'm making something and I want really something creamy, I'll just use the top part and not the bottom. and it works well too. I'm just going to use an oversized measuring cup for this because I'm going to need it later. Alright, half a cup, there we go. So, I have a little bit left, maybe I'll use it tonight on something. Now to this, we're going to take a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. Alright. Then we're going to whisk it together and set it aside and let it just do its thing. Okay, we'll be adding more wet ingredients to this later, so we're just going to let it sit. I'll sit it right here. Now I'm going to get all the rest of the dry ingredients measured and have them out, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have all of our dry ingredients measured. So we're going to go ahead and whisk those together. So we're going to put it with our sugar and our ginger mixture. You have 1 cup of brown rice flour, 3/4 cup of almond flour, 1 tablespoon, I believe. Let me look. 2 tablespoons. I believe this is only 1. I better get another tablespoon of that. Yeah. 2 tablespoons of tapioca flour. 2 teaspoons of pumpkin spice, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. Okay, so I'm just going to whisk this together and get it nicely combined. We want that pumpkin spice to be throughout the whole mixture, as well as that ginger. So now we're ready to work with the wet ingredients. Remember I said what I was going to add to this? That's what we're going to do now. Okay, so first I need 1/2 cup of pumpkin puree. The reason I use a measuring cup, because then I don't have to dirty up another container. I can just measure from here, where it's 1/2 cup, up to a cup of pumpkin puree, and that'll give me 1/2 cup of pumpkin puree. So again, I use this pumpkin in another recipe, and I had some left over, so I saved it, and we're going to use it in this recipe. And this is not pumpkin pie mix, it's pumpkin puree. Sometimes I have gotten that mixed up before, and it tastes different. A little bit more will be at a cup. So that's 1/2 cup of coconut milk and 1/2 cup of pumpkin puree. With that little bit of apple cider vinegar in there. So not much left of this. I'll probably throw this away. Alright, the last 2 ingredients that we need is maple syrup and vanilla. So we need 3 tablespoons of maple syrup, don't mind if it goes a little bit over, because when you empty a spoon, there's always a little left in there. So if it goes over just a little bit, that's okay. All right. Maple syrup. And the last thing, but not least, is the vanilla flavoring and vanilla extract. Now it calls for a teaspoon, and my grandmother taught me, and I measured it to make sure that it was correct. For a teaspoon, you can use the lid of the vanilla extract, and that will give you a teaspoon. So that's what I'm going to do. So there we go. We'll need that again for the icing. So let's whisk this together now and get it fully combined before we'll add it to our dry ingredients. And then we'll be ready. Put it in our muffin pan. All right. Let's do it. Again, start off on low, and then increase your speed. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It's a thick batter, but it's pretty thick, you can see. All right. My daughter has my regular muffin tin she used for something for the grandchildren, so I'll use this one. So that silicone one or something, not sure exactly, but it works. One thing that you got to remember is not to overfill your muffins. You want them to be 1/2 to 3/4 away full, because they're going to rise, or they should. Okay, we're ready to go in the oven. I think you have to bake it for about 20 to 25 minutes, somewhere around there, but I'm going to start checking in at 20. And let's see. I can already smell it, and when it starts baking, it's going to make the house smell really, really good. See you back in a bit. Okay, I've got them out of the oven. Took about 21, 22 minutes. They did rise, because they were about half full or a little bit more. So now I'm going to put them on this wire rack here, and we're going to let them cool for about an hour. And then I'll come back and make the icing. See you back in a little bit. Okay, so we've cooled off our muffins. Now I'm going to make the icing. It says to use 1 cup of coconut butter. I'll show you. It says coconut butter. It's different than coconut oil. Here's coconut oil. This is much firmer. I don't know if you can see, it's solid, where coconut oil is, partly solid and partly liquid. So they're different. I had to order this online. It's hard to find at a grocery store, but if you have a really good grocery store, you can find it there sometimes, like a Whole Foods maybe, something like that. Or we have something called Everman's here. I think it's a local store though. They would have it there. So I'm just kind of loosening this up a little bit. I've got to have about a cup. So I'm going to loosen it up and measure it roughly a cup. This is how it solidifies, because when it gets cool, this will go back to this form. You just have something else added to it and it gives it flavor and all that. I can tell you that while this was cooking, the house was smelling fantastic. I had to fight my daughter off to not eat a muffin before I could get them iced because they were smelling so good. That wonderful smell of fall, cinnamon and cloves and ginger and all of those nice warm smells and tastes of fall. Okay, so that's just roughly a cup. So we're going to put this in a saucepan. I'm going to turn this on low heat. To this, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of the coconut oil. This is going to take about 3 to 5 minutes, so I will fast forward and we'll get there in just a minute. Okay, and now it is melted. I was using the back of the spoon to smush the clumps, for lack of a better word, so that it would melt faster, and it did. It didn't take very long at all. So it's all smooth. You can see it's a smooth, I don't know if you can see or not. It's a smooth mixture there. See? It's nice and smooth. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add the ginger. Now if you love ginger, add a full teaspoon. It calls for a teaspoon. If you don't like ginger, don't put any ginger. It's optional. You don't have to have it in the icing. I'm going to put kind of in between. I'm not going to put a full teaspoon. I've grated some right here. I'm just going to put probably about a half a teaspoon. So we like it, but we don't like love it. So I'm going to add that in and mix it up. I'm going to turn the heat off. Then I'm going to put it in this measuring cup because it has a spout, and so I'll use that to pour on our cupcakes. I'm going to put it in this measuring cup. Let it cool off for just a few minutes, and then I'm going to add vanilla. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes, so now it's time to add our vanilla. So a teaspoon, which again is a capful. All right. I'm just going to whisk this together. Okay, and it's very liquidy. It's just kind of like a glaze. Instead of more of an icing, it's more of a glaze. See? I'm just going to pour it on top of here. Let it soak in. Right. So I'm going to let this sit for a little bit, let it cool off even more and see if it will solidify. Then we'll come back for a taste. All right, it's time to give it a taste. I have to tell you, I tasted just the icing. I wouldn't recommend this icing. It's chalky. No, it's not my favorite at all. Let's see. The muffin itself is good. Try the muffin without the icing. I really like the muffin, but I do not like the icing. It's the texture. I don't like the texture of the icing. So my recommendation, just cook the muffin and leave the icing off. If you like this recipe, please subscribe below. It would help me out a lot. Thank you.